Hello, my name is Sojourna Truth, and I'll be telling you my story as a slave. My name was originally Isabella Bonfree. I was born in New York in 1797. I have 12 brothers and sisters. I was born into slavery. When I was 9, I was sold to John Neely. He bought me and a herd of sheep. John spoke English and I spoke Dutch. He gave me a lot of cruel punishments because I did not understand him. I was tired of all the punishments he gave me, so I taught myself English. I learned from the people around me. A few years passed and I was sold to John Dumont. He was my fourth and my last buyer. He was nicer than my other owners, but he had his weaknesses. Along the road, I came across another slave named Robert. I loved him. John did not want me to marry Robert. Robert had a different owner than me, and I could not marry from a different owner. I was forced to marry Thomas, another one of John's slaves. He and I had 5 children. One of them died a few months after I had her. After all my children were born, I worked really hard. All of my hard work paid off. John told me that he would set me free in 1 year because I was being an amazing worker. All I had to do was, and I quote, do well and be faithful. The year passed and he told me he wanted me for another year, even though I was being a good worker. I got furious. I had my hopes up for nothing. John was obviously not who I thought he was. I realized I had enough with his foolishness. I decided to escape with my daughter Sophie. At the time, I was heartbroken. I had to make the choice to leave all of my children but one. We escaped to the Van Wagenens. The Wagenens despised slavery. I eventually got caught, and John found me and my daughter. The Wagenens bought my freedom for $20. After slavery ended, I was told that my son Peter, who was 5 years old, was being sold illegally. I asked the Wagenens for help, and they helped me file a lawsuit. Not only did I do that, but I also won the case. I saved my son from illegal slavery. I was the first black woman to win in a court against a white man. I not only won, but I also sued him. I was enjoying my freedom a lot. I started going to different places and telling my story about how I was a slave. People actually listened to me. I was spending a lot of time with the Van Wagenens. In those years, they helped me a lot with my spirituality. They helped me know who God is. I moved to New York with my son Peter. I went there to work as a housekeeper for Elijah. Elijah was a preacher who was also an evangelist. An evangelist is someone who converts atheists. A few years passed and I went to work with Robert Matthews, another preacher. We were both blamed for poisoning Elijah. We were later free of the accusation. I started preaching to people about the gospel. A few more years later, I gave my speech called Ain't I a Woman at the Ohio Women's Rights Convention. In my speech, I not only talked about being a slave, but I also talked about women's rights. I changed my name in 1843 to Sojourna Truth. I was the first group to be put in the National Women's Hall of Fame. I met a lot of famous people on my journey. I met Abraham Lincoln, and I told him about my life as a slave. At the convention, I met Elizabeth Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. I also talked to Frederick Douglass and many more people. Sojourna Truth died on November 26, 1833. To come to a conclusion with her religion and what she believes for equality is by using her own words. Children, who made your skin white? Was it not God? Who made mine black? Was it not the same God? Am I to blame, therefore, because my skin is black? Does not God love colored children as well as white children? And did not the same Savior die to save one as well as the other?